So the big move is to the cloud. Even recently, there was a great article that went out from Forbes magazine. The White House has made it an initiative for all government entities to get at least one prospective cloud service for backup and file management by December of this year. By June of next year, they need to have 3, and the decision will probably have to be made by December of next year. There has been a lot of money the government's been putting behind this initiative, so especially in healthcare with the stimulus package for EHR implementation. Anyone here involved in EHR, EMR implementations? That's electronic health and medical records. Really quite a big industry these days, big projects, big dollar value, supported by the government. What more could you want? The money that the government has towards it really isn't the most significant amount, but I suppose the thought counts at some point. The idea is that you will be fined if you don't meet the CCHIT certification standards by 2014. Those standards do require EHR systems, and that's for companies dealing with 60% or more healthcare records. We won't go any more into that, getting a little off track, but the move is there. Everyone needs to do it. Consistently, SAS 70 requirements, SSAE 16 requirements, which is the new accounting methodology that's going forward. Sarbanes-Oxley compliance, the EU standards, everything's going towards you need to have an off-site backup. Government's a little behind the trend always. SOS has been a service that not only provides a local and an off-site, but a dual off-site backup, meaning we replicate across data centers geographically. So even as these standards continue to increase and they catch up to really what maintains true security, SOS maintains ahead of the curve, which is why it's great to come on as a partner with us, because our focus on security is at the top of our preferences. Here's some more information about tape versus online backup. Again, hard costs, soft costs combined. You're really not doing yourself any favors, and it's when you sit down and look at the numbers and get the pen to the pad, you really see that these hardware purchases, even though they're not recurring, they do recur every 3 years because you got to replace them or they die, even though there's no subscription model behind it. And some more data across the same thing. It's expensive, doesn't cover all your instances of data loss that you need to worry about. Online backup, it's simple. The access is simple. You don't need someone qualified to access data. As long as you can use a browser, you can sign in, search for a file, and recover or share that file. Very easy to use. And it's really the most cost-effective strategy in backup out there. So more in the discussion, the move to online backup. Again, it's a big market. It continues to grow, especially now in the managed service market. And we've talked about a backup solution and different backup strategies. What is a backup solution? A backup solution really is about system state or a combination of multiple strategies in backup. That includes bare metal recovery, disaster recovery, and or system state. Local strategies, which is often what we just discussed, off-site strategies, file and folder. So there are different strategies in where you're storing data and how you can recover data. So it's a combination of these that really gives you a true solution. And those of you familiar with more formal project management, when you put together a risk registry, you have really a whole list of different things you have to worry about. Anyone here certified PMP or looking into that? No PMPs? Well, the PMI Institute, Project Management Institute, you can take a look. They have a book which is kind of the 101 of project management. It's called the PMBOK, or Project Management Book of Knowledge. And it really gives a great value of how to formalize your services that you're providing. And when you're talking about a backup solution, it helps you really identify and document the risks associated with using computers in your business and how you can either prevent, mitigate, or simply just accept those risks, which is essentially what all of us are doing. As IT professionals, we are risk managers. When something breaks, you go in and fix it. With the managed service market emerging, we go into not only becoming risk managers, but now we are, again, asset to productivity. A good question from Sean. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So when you're going through what you need to do for a backup solution, it's important that everyone understands these things. That's why there's such a huge hole at the user level, is because it's not often that people formalize their risk management. There was another article that came out with TechCrunch, as well as I think Wired, that went into, and the Harvard Review, that went into risk management and the cost of improper or inefficient or ineffective risk management in business. Risk management is one of those things where it's essentially under your control. If the market is up and down, that's fine. That's not something that you can really deal with. But when it comes to mitigating and preventing your own risks, that's something that's very much under your control. And it's the improper management of such risks that leads to a lot of businesses going under, whether it's losing a server, losing a hard drive, not having a proper plan in case there's a misstep in manufacturing. Regardless of the industry, risk management is a very vital point of keeping your business in line. And as IT service providers, that's something that we can certainly provide and make known as something that's important to deal with. Just briefly to go over, a study done by HP and SCORE collectively came up with these instances of data loss over 15 years of surveying small businesses. These are stats of magnitude. So 40% of all the damages they incurred were due to hardware failure. 29% of all the damages they recorded were due to human error. So you have to go through each of these and really identify what do we know about hardware failure and how we can, and when it happens, how can we prevent it? If we can't prevent it, how do we mitigate against it or react to it? And the same thing goes down the line. And that's how you really start putting together a true risk registry when it comes to backup. And this is how you start putting together a true backup solution with a really nice defined SLA that your customers can learn and accept. And you'll find that as you go through this, having an online backup, especially with our feature set, is imperative to really providing a true backup solution. So a big thing today is, growth drivers. All of you will notice that information is created at a more rapid rate every day. You can go out to a Target or a Sears and for $100 buy a 15-megapixel camera. 5 years ago, you were spending $500 or $600 to get something like that. So now you have these consumers, individual users, businesses alike, creating much larger amounts of data with still the same manual processes to managing that information. So having an online backup solution really cuts into that human interaction, that quote-unquote sneaker time that it takes to manage all the data that your businesses and your business users are creating. So now to get into SOS, how does SOS really fit into all this? Well, these are the 4 cornerstones of our business: protect, access, share, and manage. So protect, of course, we're backing up all your data. Access, we're giving you access to recover that information. Access isn't limited to qualified personnel. Basically, if you can use a browser, you can use our service to recover. The simplicity in managing it, be it with our new Pulse management system, which we've launched this last spring and late winter, makes it for you, the administrator, to manage very simply. You can also, because of the simplicity and the access, give individual users their own accounts. So you have multiple layers of online backup in your environment. And when it comes to backup, it's about having a belt and suspenders approach to the whole thing. So having multiple strategies of getting information back is exactly what a backup solution is all about. You can share information, so there's a bit of a productive use of this service. So if you're out at a football game this season talking to some people and you want to share something with them, you pull out your phone, pull out the mobile app, and share a document with them right there. Or recover it depending on the mobile browser you have. So this is something that is really quite powerful, and this is where we've maintained our strength in business. To get into the feature set a little bit, again, we maintain a 3-tiered encryption process. So our security is top-notch, always has been. We first encrypt the data at 256-bit AES. We then transfer the data over a 128-bit SSL, so that's a banking standard encryption. And then we store the data at an additional 1024-bit AES once it's at the data center. So at every level of data touch or movement, there's a level of encryption to protect against any prying eyes or any type of malware, whatever you can get at. So that's why we're very popular in government entities, legal firms, accounting firms, basically any financial industry. Any industry that requires high security standards is really our bread and butter in the small and medium business market. We have a great success rate with our partners who do strategic vertical campaigns. So putting against a campaign towards your law firms, your accounting firms is really terrific. A good question here, I'll stop for a minute. We've never had a breach of security. We've never lost a customer's data. We've never even had a data center go offline. So even in 2009, there was that hurricane in Houston that put through an evacuation order in the entire city. One of our data centers is in Houston, and it was really kind of a let's sit and wait type of situation to see if the data center was going to stay online or not, and it did. Everything was fine. So we select our data center very carefully.